wasn't the day where you could have the whole clan, saying goodbye, and they would, see the plane, and you'd look and see if you could see them wave. And that was the day for me, with family and friends gathered there. And I have to say, we all kind of, with a little bit of, as they say, gallows humor, joke like, well, what is the symbolism of the day of our departure being the beheading of John the Baptist? How are we supposed to interpret that? And in my own life, I've thought of it in the context, in part, of the words that Jesus gave to St. Peter, which are similar to the outcome of St. John the Baptist. And that is, when you're young, you'll go where you will, but when you're older, there'll come a time, where you'll be taken where you don't want to go. It's not that I didn't want that opportunity ahead of me, but it was something distinct that meant, because I'm seeking to follow the Lord as I am, because I want to be faithful to the call, in my case, discerning and following through the call to the priesthood, then this means I detach myself from some things that I might just kind of want to do, regardless of circumstances, and say, no, I'm following Jesus. This is where that path is taking me. And so I'll say yes. I'll just say yes. Am I perfect in that? Yes. No. Are any of us? No. But it's what we aspire to, and it's what St. John the Baptist points us to today. We could think about the account of St. John the Baptist, which is clearly one in which he is literally given all because of his faithfulness to the truth that had been given to him. And so he paid that ultimate cost, the cost of his own life. Here's a question for you. It's a question for me, too. What has it cost you to be a follower of Jesus? Have you ever had to pay a price of sorts for the fact that you're seeking to be a faithful Catholic Christian man? Now, we don't go looking for the price, but truth be told, if we are living our life faithfully in a culture that may reject much of what we believe, at some point there should be a certain sense that, we're being sharpened and refined by, if not an overt rejection of who we are, what we believe, the kind of life decisions that we make and the fidelity that we share should have some kind of a cost. We can reflect back, and perhaps it's simple as a slight that someone would disregard you because you're a follower of Jesus, disregard you because you're a faithful Catholic. Or it may be that you've had to make some difficult decisions in your own life, seemingly difficult, because you have balanced the need to be faithful with the need for a route of expedience. It may be that as you look to the future, you say, there are any number of jobs that I could take or that I can take, but this is the job that I think will allow me to best support the faith life of my family. This will be the opportunity that will allow us to pay that quite literal extra price, be it in the case of, sending your kids to Catholic schools, or those who've chosen the homeschooling option to forego other opportunities because you've made this a priority. There's a cost. There's something that you say, there's a greater good, and I'm going to remain faithful so that, come what may, I'll be a disciple of Jesus. Now, if we listen to the opening prayer today, sometimes the opening prayers, we're kind of just getting into Mass, and so, and you want to almost go on autopilot, think like they're all kind of the same, they're different for every Mass. Let's listen once again to these words that I prayed at the very beginning. This is our prayer to God. Grant that as he, St. John the Baptist, grant that as St. John the Baptist died a martyr for truth and justice, we too may fight hard for the confession of what you teach. So he died as a martyr for truth and justice. We're praying that we too would fight hard for what Jesus teaches. It's really being comfortably countercultural, as some have put it, saying, I know who I am in Jesus, and to stand strong for the faith doesn't mean that we're arrogant, we're obnoxious, but it means we're faithful. And so that people at some point should look at our lives and say, there's something a little bit different about you. So you're trying to go to daily mass is what I figure out. Wow, and it could be as simple as seeing the ashes on your forehead on Wednesday as we begin Lent. But there should be a quality about us that we stand strong. And what's interesting about it is in the gospel passage today, the one who beheads or has beheaded John the Baptist nonetheless seems to be intrigued. And so here's what Herod feared John. He feared John, knowing him to be a righteous and holy man, and kept him in custody. And he said when he heard him speak, he was very much perplexed, yet he liked to listen to him. When we think of Pilate, who washes his hands but says, this is an innocent man before me. You get the same sense with Herod. He's almost like, feeling, though it doesn't by any means excuse the horrible act that would ensue, but like, gosh, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I will. He's kind of like intrigued by John the Baptist. Pilate is perplexed by who Jesus is. There's something about these holy, righteous men that attracts, that pulls people towards them. And so a mark of being a faithful Catholic Christian man in this age, we stand strong for our families. We stand strong for life from the womb to the tomb. We stand strong as a voice against those who would prejudge based on the color of one's skin or on their country of origin. That we say we uphold the dignity of every human person and of the plan of life as God has revealed it to us and as is inscribed on our very hearts. We have not yet, in the same way, had to absorb the degree of rejection that we see in the Scripture today, but that is also real in our world today. And I remember even a few years ago, when I was younger, I would just sort of think, wow, a beheading, like who would ever do that? What kind of a warped culture would think that a beheading is acceptable? That's from a bygone era. Yet sadly today there are places in the world that to be a faithful Christian, quite literally, in recent years, has resulted in beheadings, horrific as that may sound. And so as we compare what St. John the Baptist endured, as we compare what others in this day have endured elsewhere, we should be able to absorb, the minor arrows that might come our way, the minor things that we might have to endure so that we can be faithful. And of course, this faithfulness is not just expressed externally, but it's something that we bring into our family life. The kind of secondary theme of the conference today is, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And thank you for seeking to do that, to aspire to have you and your households serve the Lord. And so it means imbuing our family lives with the gift of faith, ensuring that in our role of leadership, support, and love, we make the practice of the faith normative. And we have a different spectrum here. Some of you are younger, not yet even engaged or married. Others have been married and would have children who are younger. Some maybe the era of directly raising your children has passed on as you're in a different end of life's spectrum. But at every point in that spectrum, that fidelity to Jesus can always be exemplified and should be exemplified. I'll tell you, having been involved in both youth ministry and in men's ministry in different capacities over the years, there's always a spectrum. I mean, there could be some who's like, boy, I tried raising my kids Catholic as best as I could, and now they're not even practicing the faith. It's heartbreaking. But I'll tell you, it is far more difficult for someone else to be a vehicle of God's grace in somebody's heart if they have had no prior background with the faith. And in youth ministry and other men's ministry, those who have been raised and who have had a household that has supported the faith, their own family members may not be the agent of their reconciliation, return to the faith. But it's like when somebody else encounters them, all the stuff back here, it's like they already have the infrastructure. It's like it's already, all the foundations has been laid, and now someone else can help bring that to life. But to abdicate that responsibility would be a great shame and a great tragedy. So I encourage all of us here to continue building up your household as a household of faith and to look to the future where that can be secure. I've helped every summer for about the last 20 years, a smaller group of men have a men's retreat. Just kind of a weekend event. We scaled it back a little bit this summer with everything being a little bit crazy, made it one day, modified things a bit, but for 20 years. And it's great to be, it's pretty much the same group of men for 20 years. And it's just great to kind of hear the life stories over time. And so 20 years ago, boy, the kids were just these toddlers. And now, over time, after 20 years, what's beautiful is the two older sons of this group of men said, hey, we want to do something for that next generation. And so they took the leadership, and they invited all the sons of the men who had been going to this retreat for 20 years. Pretty remarkable. They had a phenomenal retreat this past summer. They got their own priests, they organized it, they had a holy hour rosaries, they spent some time talking about fellowship, and it was extraordinary. And I'll tell you, there is no greater joy that those fathers experienced than that their sons had taken the mantle. And really took it without the dad saying, why don't you guys do this? It was like they rose to that. Offer that as a word of encouragement, because you just never really know how the Lord will respond to that faithfulness. But we're called to be faithful, as Mother Teresa famously said, God calls us to be faithful, not successful. Success is something we can't control. Faithfulness is something we can control. And my brothers, as we remain faithful, as we are inspired by St. John the Baptist, as we say, if he could endure that, I can endure what I need to endure. And what cost have I paid for my faith? All I know is I want to keep serving you, Jesus. I want to be faithful. And if we get that right, what a beautiful life. A happy, healthy, holy, vibrant, fully alive life as Catholic men. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. St. John the Baptist, pray for us.